All right. Should be live. Let me go ahead and just wait for scoring here and making sure we are before we go ahead and start talking about all this stuff. All right, cool. Yeah, we are. All right. What's going on, guys? I just relay to people that Sheets will be doing an MLB build, and he'll be talking about NASCAR in about 20 minutes. I don't know if you want to do stuff together or not, but I figured I'd get my stuff, or I figured I'd do a live show before because I didn't know if I'd be free either when he was doing his stuff or after or whatever. I just want to go live and talk about the slate today. Sorry, I didn't do a live show yesterday. It's been a busy week. I just wasn't able to get back to my stuff. However, I still did the projections and stuff. Similar as yesterday for today. Personally, I'm just aiming specifically for the majority of laps led in this race. Now, obviously, last year was the first time we raced here, and we did have some, early restart shenanigans with an early yellow, and then Kyle Larson has a bad um, down pit road, and then it leads him to be involved in a wreck and stuff. But Blaney pretty much ran away with the race, and I think that was pretty much due to Larson not being really up there late in the race last year to really compete. But when we're looking at the starting grid today between Briscoe, Byron, and Larson, I think the winner comes from one of these three guys. The fact that we have Larson at like, I mean, this is pretty nuts. Whenever we have a pretty substantial discount in the pricing for Kyle Larson, I mean, we have Blaney starting sixth. And, obviously, he did his stuff last year and stuff, and then we have Hamlin 11th. But I am gonna live and die today by the winner either being Larson, Byron, or Chase Briscoe. When we're looking at how difficult it is to pass here, very very similar to a place like Richmond and stuff, and really any other short track where we just want to try and capture all the laps led and stuff. That's my prerogative today, and I think it makes it fairly easy. I think there's a real chance that we run into quite a lot of chalky lineups and chalky builds, mainly because with the discount and pricing that Briscoe, Byron, and Larson have, okay, because we're not playing Centric, okay, we're most likely not playing Keselowski. If Blaney or anybody else, is getting to the lead, we've obviously had strategy on pit lane, tires taking out people up top of the starting grid or whatever. Okay, if we're aiming for, or at least for me personally, if I'm aiming for potential lap leaders in the top three, they're at a pretty cheap price tag. And what that does is that funnels everybody to you know, the 7 and 8K range, which usually, leaves us, with right on the fringe value and stuff to where like you're getting guys that are probably going to project and score anywhere from like 33 to 38 points. You typically need people near the 40s, 42, 43, 44 to really be considered somewhat viable in a build perspective. But the fact that we have Ty Gibbs at 78. We have Alex Bowman at 71, who had the best speed in practice and who has been, pretty significantly, obviously the fourth Hendrick car this year, but still, I mean, outside of being involved in wrecks and stuff, Bowman, his average speed is top 10 and literally across the board this year. We have Priest, who is my favorite play at $7,000. We also have, Kyle Busch, Chastain, and Busher at 87, 85, and 82. Okay, now obviously, if you're playing cash or whatever, clearly you're trying to fit in as many people between Busher, Chastain, Kyle Busch, Bowman, Gibbs, and Priest as possible. But the fact that you can very easily get, pretty much all of these guys, okay, you really don't have to punt today at all. If you're, playing Larson and Chase Briscoe together, if you're playing Larson and William Byron together, like you don't have to punt today at all. Um, that's the main way that I'm building. If I am punting, it's either to Todd Gilliland and or Cody Ware if I'm just spinning up across the board for people. I do want to say as we look quickly and go through the practice data and stuff. Now, obviously, 350 laps is pretty significant. Obviously, we want to chase those and stuff. But when we look at the amount of drivers left on the lead laps in these races and stuff, specifically at Iowa last year, There is one thing I'm a little concerned about with some of the place differential in the back of the field. But let me go ahead and check one thing really fast before I bring that up. If this thing is going to want to load here. Yeah, we ended up only having 14 drivers on the lead lap last year. We had positions 22 to 15, one lap down, and then 24 to 29, three laps down last year. Okay. So my concern is for, obviously we have Kyle Busch starting in the back of the field, right? Wrecked his car, whatever. I do have hesitations, and I'm a bit worried about, potential situations where like Kyle Busch or Priest end up getting trapped a lap down, or have their potential upside in terms of finishing position kind of hindered by being a lap down. Same thing with Chastain, but I think this more so comes from the fact that their price tag. There's people that are significantly cheaper than them in very, very similar situations. As I said, we have Priest starting 33rd. I think he's a much safer play than Chastain and Kyle Busch starting 28 and 37 at $1,200 and $1,500 more expensive. I think that's why Priest is much more is way safer than some of these guys and stuff here. So if I was going to be overweight or build around a person, at least for me, it wouldn't be Kyle Busch or Chastain. It would most likely be around Ryan Preece, just due to the price tag that he's at. I think we can do a lot more with our lineups, and he doesn't have to nearly. He only needs 35 points at value. And I think if he's doing that, he's very easily considering or contending to score 42, 45, et cetera, amount of points and stuff, because he's, literally been the best RFK car just, this year with, that's obviously why we're not playing Keselowski, because he's been the worst. But Buescher and Priest to me are guys that I'm much more interested in versus Chastain and Kyle Busch. That's not saying I'm not playing Chastain and Kyle Busch, but I like Buescher and Paris. I like those combinations a lot more, and I think you get a discounted ownership. I really don't have very much else to speak of. I mean, normally we have pricing much tighter and stuff. I mean, obviously we're looking at the the practice speeds here and stuff. Everybody ran a significant long run and was able to make adjustments on their car and stuff. So I think what we're seeing from both practice and qualifying will be pretty similar to where most people should fall in line at, regardless of what group you're in. Specifically when we're looking at the starting grid. I always do the wrong one here. Also, I forgot to move the Austin Hill bumper back, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, like that's where I'm at. I don't really like Hamlin and Bell today. Obviously, I'm playing a significant amount of Byron and Larson and stuff. But I also yet again, I just don't think we need to punt today. Alex Bowman was incredibly fast in practice, which I'm not even concerned about the group he was in. Just the fact that we're running very, very, even if the track, is different or whatever, like these are still significantly or not. These laps have very little fall off in terms of his own stuff. So regardless of what he's doing against the field, I'm pretty satisfied with with the consistency that we're seeing from Bowman. It's not, I'm not looking at it as like, oh, he's the fastest, at this data point or whatever. It's just that these are pretty much identical lap times that he was running and stuff. Now, granted, he only ran 31 laps. That's why his average is significantly higher than other people. But I would very much expect him to run in a similar range of his teammates today as Elliott, Buescher, or not Buescher, Elliott, Byron, and then Larson. I'm sure he'll be in between that average, and him and his price tag is like insane. Same thing with Ty Gibbs. Like I really, really like Ty Gibbs today. From a build perspective, I mean today's like, unless we have catastrophe up front, I have to imagine ownership will center around these guys up here, and I have to imagine that there should be a lot of very similar built lineups today that are primarily in the 7 and 8K range. As stated, you don't really need a punt today. There's really no reason you should ever be in a situation of like, oh man, who should I play? Should I play Ty Gibbs at 78, or or have a build go like, oh, I really need John Henry Nemechek at 72. Like if you're personally for me, if I'm like, oh man, my last guy in is Nemechek. Oh man, my last guy in is Zane Smith. Like I would personally just rebuild. Um, I'm really just trying to avoid the really most of the 6 and 5 range outside of Todd Gilliland. I think if you're in the 5K range, I think he's by far the best value play. And then if you need more, yet again, I think Cody Ware is probably the play that we would end up going to. 350 laps. Don't focus on place differential. Okay, we're focused on trying to get the laps led. Okay, if we're trying to get as many potential lap leaders as possible, that's usually accounting for 3 positions in your team, right? Okay, so regardless of who you play for that, who's still left, who then projects to be the best, either from a single projection like my stuff or a medium projection or whatever. Yet again, that's we're landing and just getting to people like Ryan Preece, Bowman, um, Kyle Busch, Chastain, and stuff. Not because we're prioritizing those. Like we are not. At least I'm personally not starting builds focusing on those guys. I'm getting all the lap leaders that I want, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can very easily afford all the better projected guys in the back of the field. Okay, so maybe it sounds contradicting to be like, oh, don't focus on place differential, and then you end up with all the place differential guys, but if you're focusing on getting whatever lap leaders you want, you typically end up playing whatever is left to make that happen. Today just happens to be the fact that you're going to end up in the 8 and 7K range pretty easily. I just don't see a reason to not go that direction today. What's going on, Miami? I like Barry as well. Yet again, when I mean, I guess I can flip it back this way so we can look at the salaries and stuff here. When we're building, as I said, I have my potential worries with Kyle Busch, potentially being trapped a lap down, finishing like 24th, not killing your lineup, but not scoring, like 48, 50 points, for probably what he would need to really contend to be pushing optimal at his price tag and compared to where some other guys in the K ranges and stuff. So like Josh Berry, obviously, the direct pivot. And when you're looking at these guys here, I mean, Busher, Chastain, Kyle Busch, Ty Gibbs are all going to carry ownership. Josh Berry is most likely going to be the least owned in the 8K range. I mean, the 8K range is only 4 guys. I think Berry makes a fantastic tournament play just due to that alone. And in a situation if Kyle Busch and Chastain end up getting lapped or whatever, Berry should or would most likely score similar, if not slightly higher, than those guys if they get trapped a lap down. So, I mean, from a tournament perspective, Berry makes a lot of sense. He should just shotgun off the top of my head. Berry should come in at like 7% ownership. There's really no reason to play him outside of a pivot and stuff like that. Hold on, I got to cough. Hold on. I was showing my partner old YouTube videos I have on my channel because they were curious and I was like, oh, because I haven't listened to them in years, right? Like I've been making DFS videos since like 2018, right? And I hadn't gone back and listened to them in forever. Like one of the random ones I clicked on, and then I went to like a random point, like 17 minutes in. And it's just me coughing directly into the microphone. So that was quite funny to go. For what is this? Would you limit to having one guy in the back of the field? What is your back of the field mean? Pope, and then I can clarify that. How many uniques do you run in 20 lineups? For NASCAR. Okay, now I do want to, take a slight step. Obviously, we got 15 minutes until Sheets is going to start his thing. I have been using, as stated, through us, I have, the Sims, contest Sims, and stuff like that. Obviously, you can get that through us, with practically three sites in one, with not only pay dirt stuff. I mean, literally, NFL is here. I mean, the preseason already started. If you played the Hall of Fame game, uh, like I did, I mean, the NFL season is already here. I've been playing a lot of, and really, like, pretty much every day, the past, like, 3 wee yeah, I guess past, like, 3 weeks, I've been just goofing around with SaberSim and 150 max and stuff, and I've already taken down several of the 150, contests, and, obviously, we've been competing with all the esports stuff. I mean, I understand other sites are gonna have sales and stuff. Also, I do have good, like, legit good news. I've been saying this since, like, April, right? But the website is actually, like, near completion. Um, so we'll have a new, user interface and stuff on our website. Anyway, it's very, very difficult to find a greater deal than what is on your screen here with everything you get from our projections, my projections for NASCAR, Sheets' projections for all this stuff, Goldie's projection for all the sports, pay dirt sims, pay dirt projections, and then obviously, whatever saber sim you're using. Um, I use this heavily in every sport I use. I mean, I've been playing, you know, tennis, esports, MLB, literally like nonstop the past couple weeks. I use the contest sims and the portfolio manager stuff. Now, with that stated, I'm going through all that because I was asked a question about my um, how many uniques that I have in 20 lineups. NASCAR is the only sport that I hand build for. That this is the only sport that I build my own lineups. Obviously, I use SaberSim and what it's showing me on certain lineups and stuff, or to have an idea of what I want to do. But I still hand build my own stuff for NASCAR. And so to answer that, I have no clue what my min unique is if I'm doing 20 lineups because I just hand build shit. And if I end up like when I'm hand building, I'm perfectly fine. Um, like I'm hand building. Like I sometimes I'll end up with like 80% of a driver. Sometimes my highest owned driver is like 55%. Sometimes I have my lowest ownership to a driver at like 25%. So, lowest I'm playing somebody is in five lines. Sometimes my pool is very condensed, sometimes very wide. Today, if I was building 20, which I'm not, just because it seems to be fairly chalky, and I think I can do whatever I want with less than 20 lineups and stuff with throwing them in every contest. Today, I probably, I don't even know, man. For the most part, in other sports or whatever the case may be, typically if you're whatever package you have on SaberSim, if you at least have the Sims and stuff, if you have the portfolio diversifier, it'll automatically handle that stuff. And I don't touch a fucking thing. I just let it do its job, and it's been doing perfectly fine. Specifically with MLB, if you just run the portfolio manager and then just continuously late swap once every game locks, once you have more information to work with of where ownership is on players, it'll usually funnel you in a decent direction. I don't mess with anything. If I don't have the portfolio manager and stuff, I would usually run the Sims and then at least just put min uniques too. Specifically, if it's like Counter Strike, League of Legends, or WNBA, I typically do Min Unique 2 or Min Unique 3 for those. But at this point, I just let the portfolio manager handle all that stuff. But that to answer your question, that's what I use, or that's what I would do in those situations. Um, let's say I'm having a hard time. Um, I would not. I'm not concerned about Gibbs' pick crew. I'm not specifically at his price tag. He's 78th or 20th. I mean, this is a 12th place car week in, week out. Now that he's finally stopped, like just finishing like 35th, like he was at the end of last year and at the start of this year. 78 for Ty Gibbs, like I have no issue with that, especially when we're looking at people around him. Like obviously, Barry's a tournament play. You have no reason to play Keselowski. Carson Hocevar is the more spotlight he gets on him, the more dumb shit he's doing. and bad decisions. Obviously, Bubba Wallace has like his third legitimate win. Congratulations to Bubba, right? I was arguing with people, or not arguing, like I was just goofing around. Um, this is his what depending on how you look at it, right? And depending on how much you want to hate on Bubba. This is his first Cup win that doesn't have any asterisks around it. So like that's good because he was in Kurt's car and Tyler Reddick's car when he won Kansas. The rain delay at Talladega. You have this one to where like nobody can contest it, right? You have a cucumbered win with the Truck Series at Michigan. You have other things like it's this win and the two Martinsville races that are like no asterisks around. So like congratulations to Bubba Wallace to having his third Cup win, but really it's his first win. So. But I'm not playing Bubba starting 15th. I'd rather play Bowman based on where his teammates are in practice, where his teammates are expected to be in race pace and where he's expected to be in race pace. And then, you have Priest starting 33rd. Like so personally, I don't want to play Keselowski. I don't want to play Hocevar. I'd rather play Bowman over Wallace, and I'm not playing Austin Cindric. And so when we're looking at where Gibbs is at in this price range, what I would argue is we're looking at like this, like it's kind of like no man's land, right? These are like the people that we're going that you're playing, right? So you have, it's literally this in the middle of the salary cap or the salary standings and stuff. Let's see. So if we want at least 3 lap leaders, can you say who would be included in that group? Well, guys projected to lead laps. Typically, whether you're using my projections, Sheets' Sabres, it's usually the guys who are projected highest on a raw or even on a median projection. Like if you're looking at projections, whether it's mine or whatever, um, obviously you have the place differential guys higher up in the median projection and stuff. But typically, if you see a guy, starting in the top 5, if you have, and I'm only doing this so I'm not showing the projections today because obviously we want you guys to use it, and I'm sure Sheets will talk about it more when he goes live. But when you have, a list of projections and you sort from the highest projected to the lowest projection, you usually have, somebody starting in the top 5, a place differential, another top 5, place differential, place differential, guy starting top 5. Those would be your projected lap leaders, and or however, whatever you define as a lap leader, whether you're, do you see, a guy potentially leading laps in this race? And if so, how many? Okay. The people who would, typically fall in line of that, would be obviously guys starting up front, people who have shown speed at short tracks this year. So Blaney, like the lap leaders, the most likely projected lap leaders of a list, if you had like 6 of them, would be Briscoe, Byron, Larson, Blaney, Elliott, Hamlin, right? Like those would be your initial list of potential lap leaders. Okay. As stated, I like Byron, Larson, and Briscoe. If you want to expand that, by all means, whatever you want to do. But I would want 3 of those people that I listed if I'm looking at potential lap leaders and stuff. Really, I don't. No, you're fine, Pope. I mean, really, outside of that, uh, as stated, I think most projections are probably going to be very similar today. I think there's a real chance that we do have quite a bit of duplication and stuff like that. Let's see. Oh, Sheets says he wants me to join him. He's going to do MLB stuff from now to the top of the hour. So after that, I think I am going to hop on and chit chat with Sheets after this during his stream. And so I'll probably end it here. If you guys want to go build or whatever, and then you can come back and listen to me and Sheets talk about building stuff and everything like that. So I will see you later. Yet again, one of the best. I was gonna say values for basically 3 sites in one. I would encourage everybody to grab this specifically just for SaberSim. Like if you're using any other builder, I think you are significantly behind the what is it? The curve. Anyway, see you guys in like half an hour with Sheets. Bye bye.